He wasn't a player, he wasn't a prospect. A lawyer shouldn't become an NHL coach, and he definitely shouldn't win 2 Stanley Cups. Here's the twist. Players would one day run through walls for him, and no one saw it coming.
That's it, that's it, that's it.
Jon Cooper was not supposed to be an NHL coach. He was supposed to be in a courtroom. Before he ever lifted a Stanley Cup, he was standing in front of judges defending clients who could barely afford a lawyer. He was a public defender, earning about $1,500 a month, taking high-volume court-appointed cases, and learning how to argue, think fast, and read people.
I was a defense attorney for 5 years.
He learned how to cut through the noise fast, separate emotion from logic, and take control of a room, even when he was the least powerful person in it. Before any of that, he was just another kid from Western Canada, born August 23, 1967 in Prince George and raised in Saskatchewan, loving hockey like every other kid on the prairie. His life was moving in one direction, but one unexpected decision was waiting to pull him off the standard hockey road. He played lacrosse at Hofstra from 1989 to 1990, helping the program reach the NCAA tournament and shaping the way he later understood spacing and flow. He picked up a different way of seeing movement, spacing, and tempo, ideas that would quietly resurface years later. After graduating, Cooper's first big career step was not behind a bench. It was behind a legal desk. He attended Thomas M. Cooley Law School in Lansing, Michigan, earned his law degree, and stepped into a world far away from rinks and locker rooms. He even tried Wall Street for a moment, chasing a future as a sports agent, never knowing that walking away from that path would become one of the biggest gambles of his life. But soon, he found himself back in Michigan working as a public defender. That job dropped him into chaos. He handled non-stop criminal cases for people who had nowhere else to turn, and every day felt like walking into a storm that forced him to stay calm even when everything around him was breaking. It gave him the kind of steady presence that makes a room trust you before you even speak, a calm that was about to change the course of his life. He was walking into another normal day in court, unaware that one question was about to redirect everything. Cooper worked in a Michigan district court where he appeared often. A judge watched him argue cases again and again. The judge noticed his presence, his ability to stay calm, and how he could handle people who were emotional or stressed. After about a year and a half, that judge approached him with a simple question that would redirect his entire life. He asked Cooper if he would consider coaching a high school team that needed someone new. The judge's son played on that team. Cooper had never coached at that level, but he said yes. He had described this moment as the one time he bet on myself, walking away from the courtroom and taking a chance on something completely different. His first real coaching job was at Lansing Catholic High School in the 1999-2000 season. Cooper stepped into a room full of teenagers, not professional athletes, but he treated the job with the same seriousness he gave his legal work. He made the game simple, and the players felt something they had never felt before. The results exploded. Lansing Catholic won its first regional championship in almost 25 years. That wasn't just a win. It was the moment people around the rink started whispering that the lawyer might actually be building something real, something way bigger than a high school miracle, even if no one dared say it out loud yet. From there, Cooper moved into junior hockey. He became an assistant coach with the Capital Center Pride in the North American Hockey League, then took over the Metro Jets in Junior B hockey. With that team, he won the 2002 Silver Cup National Championship, proving again that his approach worked no matter the level. Soon he was hired by the Texarkana Bandits, an expansion team in the NAHL. He became both head coach and general manager, building the roster and shaping the identity from scratch. The wins came fast, and players kept responding to his approach. When the team moved to St. Louis and became the St. Louis Bandits, Cooper turned them into a powerhouse. He led them to Robertson Cup championships in 2007 and 2008, won NAHL Coach of the Year twice, and built one of the strongest records the league had ever seen. Next came the Green Bay Gamblers in the USHL. In 2 seasons, he delivered an 84, 27, and 9 combined record, won the Clark Cup in 2010, and earned USHL Coach of the Year. At this point, many analysts began calling him the only coach to win titles in all 3 tiers of United States junior hockey. And now, after years of climbing, the next step was waiting. The American Hockey League was about to open its doors, and the former lawyer was about to walk straight through. The jump to the American Hockey League was not a comfort zone. It was a test. Jon Cooper took over the Norfolk Admirals, knowing that every coach in the AHL was fighting for the same dream, the same call-up, and the same respect. This was the level where careers could break in an instant. He brought a structured pace to the team, the kind that made players feel like every shift had a plan behind it. Every drill meant something. Every correction attacked a specific weakness. Guys said it felt like they were being rebuilt brick by brick. His first season with Norfolk showed flashes, but it also showed something more dangerous. Players on the edge of the NHL started buying into him, and whispers began about whether the lawyer was about to jump levels faster than anyone expected. But it was the next season that changed everything. Norfolk produced one of the most dominant years the league had ever seen. They won game after game, ripping off a 28-game winning streak, the longest in AHL history, and a pro hockey record. The team played fast, sharp, and calm under pressure, reflecting the way Cooper handled his players. Cooper never used fear to control the locker room. He talked players through pressure like someone who had already seen worse storms, and guys kept saying the same thing. He made them believe they could survive moments that would break other teams, and that belief was starting to become a weapon. But the truth was bigger than a championship, because every win pushed him closer to a league where coaches did not just get judged, they get eaten alive, and he was heading straight into that world. But taking an AHL team to the top of the league was the kind of statement that reached NHL offices. Cooper was winning in every place he touched, and he was doing it with a steady approach that matched the pressure of the pro game. The next chapter came quickly. In 2012, Tampa Bay changed its AHL affiliation, and Cooper moved to coach the Syracuse Crunch. He kept the same calm structure and the same sharp communication. Even in a short time, he made another strong push with a roster filled with young talent chasing a spot in the NHL. His work in Syracuse was enough for the Lightning front office to make their decision. They needed a new head coach, and they already knew who they wanted. The Lightning fired their head coach and looked straight to Cooper. He had built a record of winning at every level. He had handled different personalities, different ages, and every type of pressure. He had proven that he could take a group from raw talent to championship form. And most importantly, he had done it with a style that matched the modern NHL. This was the biggest step of his life. He was no longer building young players. He was now responsible for a franchise chasing a championship window. His journey had gone from high school hockey to junior championships to a Calder Cup and now to the biggest stage in the sport. Tampa Bay was a team full of young stars, big expectations, and pressure from every direction. But Cooper did not look overwhelmed. But the hardest stretch was still ahead, and everything he'd learned was about to be tested. Jon Cooper arrived in Tampa in March 2013. He stepped into a team with talent, history, and heavy expectations. The Lightning had been searching for a long-term leader. His early years with the Lightning brought steady growth. The team matured into a serious contender. They played fast, heavy, and structured hockey, and they kept building towards something bigger. But the real breakthrough came in the 2014-2015 season. Tampa won 50 games and set a franchise record with 108 points. They became one of the fastest and most skilled teams in the league, built around Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, and a new wave of young talent. Cooper helped shape that mix into a system that felt smooth, calm, and controlled. The Lightning reached the Stanley Cup final in 2015. They pushed the Chicago Blackhawks to 6 games before falling short. Still, that run shifted something. Fans and analysts saw he wasn't a nice little story anymore. He was becoming the kind of coach who could tilt a playoff series. The next season pushed them even deeper. Tampa reached the Eastern Conference Final and came within a single game of breaking through to the final again. But the biggest test of his career arrived in 2019. The Lightning had one of the greatest regular seasons in NHL history. Tampa posted 62 wins, tying the NHL's all-time record, and finished with 128 points, one of the highest totals in league history. Then they lost in 4 straight games to the Columbus Blue Jackets. That collapse hit deeper than anyone admitted. The kind of failure that cracks rooms and ends coaching careers, and everyone wondered if even the most loved coach could survive it. A record-setting team was gone in an instant, and the kind of loss that usually shatters trust hit the room hard, the type of collapse that buries most coaches long before they can recover. Instead, Cooper faced the cameras and took responsibility.
I don't know. Probably more disappointed. It was, in the end, it's just we just couldn't find our game. That was it.
The next year, the world shut down. The NHL created the playoff bubble. Teams were isolated, away from families, playing under intense pressure. Many coaches struggled to keep their teams focused. Cooper adapted to the bubble faster than most coaches, keeping his team focused when isolation was breaking others. Tampa fought through the bubble and reached the Stanley Cup final again. This time, they finished the job. In 2020, the Lightning defeated the Dallas Stars in 6 games and lifted the Stanley Cup.
And trying to get there and get a trigger pull of a shot that went wide that time was Goodrow. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup.
Oh my God.
Cooper became the first former public defender in NHL history to win the Cup as a head coach. And he wasn't done. In 2021, Tampa returned to the final and beat the Montreal Canadiens. Back-to-back championships. The lawyer had built a dynasty. 2 cups in 2 years turned his story into something rare. A coach who once ran high school practices was now leading a team with no weak links, built for long runs instead of short bursts. In 2022, the Lightning reached their 3rd straight final, falling to the Colorado Avalanche. Even in defeat, the run confirmed Cooper's status as one of the best coaches of his era. But success always brings pressure. Tampa kept winning, but each season came with new challenges. Players left in free agency, injuries piled up, the salary cap squeezed the roster. Reporters asked the same question every year. How long can one coach hold a championship core together in a league that changes fast? Cooper kept hitting milestones. On March 30th, 2018, he passed John Tortorella to become the winningest coach in Lightning history. On December 9th, 2021, he reached his 400th NHL win faster than any coach before him. On January 9th, 2024, he recorded his 500th win in an overtime game against the Los Angeles Kings. Each milestone pushed his name deeper into NHL history. But the NHL doesn't slow down. Every season becomes a test of durability. As the Lightning pushed deeper into the 2020s, Cooper faced more questions about his future. Would he stay behind the bench forever? Would he move into management? Would a new challenge appear? The truth was far less simple, because the longer he stayed on top, the more people whispered the same question: how long one voice could stay powerful in a league that changes fast? There were controversies along the way, moments that reminded people he was still emotional and fiery under the calm. In 2024, he was criticized for a comment about goalies needing skirts on them.
We might as well put skirts on them then, if that's how it's going to be. I mean, they have to battle through stuff too.
He later apologized. In 2025, he and the Lightning were fined after a heated preseason brawl with the Florida Panthers. Cooper was fined $25,000 and the team was fined $100,000. He faced the questions head-on, choosing honesty over avoiding the truth. When players talk about him now, they mention something beyond wins, the feeling that he always had their backs, even when the league came after them. His journey carried a weight most coaches never felt. That grind shaped the way he now handles benches, media, and playoff series. That world built the coach he became. Players said the room leaned on him hardest when things went sideways, because he had that rare calm that made grown men believe they could drag themselves back from anything. And the results speak for themselves. 2 Stanley Cups, 4 Stanley Cup final appearances, a franchise transformed into a dynasty, records that will likely stand for years. His story didn't need scandals or chaos, because the real shock was that someone who came from courtrooms instead of locker rooms earned more loyalty from his players than half the league's legends ever did. He proved that backgrounds don't define ceilings, only what you do with them. Took a chance on a high school team and somehow turned that gamble into one of the most incredible coaching runs of his era. No one handed him anything. No one expected him to reach the NHL. And no one expected him to lift the Stanley Cup twice. Today, he still stands behind the Lightning bench, still guiding a team. His future is open. He could chase more cups. He could move into a front office role. He could even leave the game and write a new chapter. What shocked you more? The judge handing him a whistle, or the way players grew to love the lawyer who built them a dynasty? If you want the next twist in the story, hit subscribe and stay dialed in. And if you want to roll with the Skates and Scars crew for real, smash join and step a little closer to the grind. You show up, we go deeper, so don't be the beauty who misses it because you were tying your skates for 4 minutes, you absolute pigeon.